so we've actually invested in education programs for companies to be able to utilize that we've subsidized, so that they can learn how to measure emissions, how to reduce emissions, how to set targets, and making sure that we are staying on a positive course when it comes to our environmental impact. Because we know that the industry is doing so many great things, but we've got to be able to show those and have those proof points of what the industry is doing.
Welcome to MeatsPad. In collaboration with the American Meat Science Association, it's a platform dedicated to share breakthrough knowledge that is accessible to the global meat industry. On each episode, you'll have the opportunity to listen and learn from meat specialists and professionals about the whole meat industry. This podcast is brought to you by the U.S. Meat Export Federation, Ultrasource, equipment and supplies for the meat and food industry.
Hello, meat folks. Welcome back to the MeatsPad podcast. It's your happy, hungry host, Phil Bass, with another meat enthusiast, and in fact, not just a meat enthusiast, but a representative of an organization that is out serving the meat community at the Meat Institute. Erick Mittenthal. Erick, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So we've had Julianne Potts on, but I don't know if we talked much about the North American Meat Institute yet. So maybe briefly, could you describe the organization and what it does to serve the greater meat community?
Yeah, the Meat Institute has been around in various forms since 1906.
Okay.
A certainly major year in meat industry history is the Federal Meat Inspection Act kind of came to be back then. And we work with the industry to help support education. We do advocacy, try to influence things in Washington, D.C. with USDA and on Capitol Hill. And my role is really about helping to support continuous improvement in the industry. Mm-hmm. And so we have put a lot of energy towards how do we identify best practices, how do we measure progress on those over a 10-year time frame, and show proof points of how we are advancing as an industry so that we can earn greater consumer trust. And so the Meat Institute, we have more than 330 packer processor members, companies who certainly everybody is familiar with, but also a lot of small companies as well that people may not be as familiar with. And so it's about 95% of the red meat that's produced across the country, the majority of the poultry as well. We have members in Canada and Mexico. We engage globally on issues, trade issues. So we're very active. We're here to be a representative of the meat industry and be an umbrella that unites work that's occurring across all the different proteins. We know there's great work occurring in each of the individual protein spaces through the checkoffs and through the producer groups that are specific to the proteins, but as an organization that brings them all together, we see ourselves as a convener and an umbrella that can tie together a lot of that great work. And we work really closely with those organizations and have great relationships.
Yeah. Well, and for those who are less familiar with the Meat Institute, I highly encourage folks to get involved and just kind of research a little bit about the things that the Meat Institute is touching, and just know that if there's any hot topics or anything that is potentially going to inhibit our progress in the meat world, the Meat Institute is on it right away. You guys have an amazing team there, and so I appreciate what you do. Now, Erick, you mentioned how the Meat Institute, and especially your position, is a proactive organization, and you're taking a very proactive approach. And so the main topic I wanted to talk about is something called the Protein PACT. And I'm certain you're very familiar with it. So maybe tell the listeners about what that is and maybe how they can get involved.
Yeah, the Protein PACT is my baby. So okay. Very familiar with it. And it's something that I've been working on for the last 6-7 years at this point, from its inception. And it really began with our leadership challenging us as an organization to be more proactive and stop being on the defensive. Mm-hmm. Historically, as an industry, I think we've suffered from just always being defensive and on our back feet and not really thinking about how we can stay ahead of issues. And so the Protein PACT, which started as what we call trust in animal protein, really launched as a way for us to try to be more proactive, identify the things that are critical when it comes to earning greater consumer trust in animal protein and measuring those in a transparent way, and also reporting on those very transparently and bringing together partnerships across the supply chain. And so what was originally called Trust in Animal Protein, we renamed to the Protein Pact for the People, Animals, and Climate of Tomorrow. And it focuses on the areas that are most important when it comes to consumer trust. And so we do consumer research every year, pretty much constantly, looking at what are the topics that are most impactful when it comes to consumer trust. And generally 5 topics rise to the top. It's animal welfare, environmental impact, food safety, nutrition and food security, and labor and human rights. And so we know that the industry does a lot of great work in all of those areas, not always well represented in terms of the way it's portrayed in the media or by others. And so we are actively working with the industry to report what they're doing so that we have data to back up. This is what the industry does. Here's the proof. Here's the data behind it. And here's how we're making progress moving forward. In addition, we've developed several specific goals in all of those areas to help support the industry and work towards over the rest of this decade. And so it really is a very holistic project meant to stay ahead of the issues and have the proof of what the industry is doing to earn that greater consumer trust.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, first off, I really appreciate you doing something like that. We absolutely need to be more proactive. I'm one of the biggest critics, but then also one of the more guilty of the ag community for not being proactive and always being defensive. We always had a tendency in the past to just we're focused on our business, and that's what it is. And if we don't speak up for our own business, someone else. Well, first off, others may not, but if they do, they may get our story completely wrong. And so that's why it's so important that we do have this information out there. And I'm grateful that you're collecting data. I mean, showing real life numbers of and information of what's actually happening out there. And we need to have that. We need to remain proactive. So, gosh, I mean, that's. Do you have any like specific examples of maybe some numbers that you could share with the listeners out there? And maybe are these numbers that are they available to folks to utilize?
Yeah, they are all available. If you go to our website at theproteinpact.com
Okay.
or .org, we have our report, and we have the work that's occurring in all of the different individual species sectors as well. So, like I said, we're partnered with beef and pork and dairy and feed, as well as U.S. Meat Export Federation and animal health companies. It really is meant to be very holistic to incorporate all the things that everybody's doing. For us, we put out an annual report, and we're looking at our companies. Do they have animal handling and transportation audits in place? Currently, about 3/4 of our members who handle animals are focused on animal handling and transportation audits and passing those. We're looking to get that number up to 100%. And so we're off to a good start, but certainly more growth to be able to show there. Our industry is getting a lot of attention and focus on our environmental impact and making sure that we're able to measure our emissions, what's occurring in our facilities, as well as what's occurring on farm. And that's a very hard piece of the puzzle and something that is still a big challenge. But the majority of our members, over 70%, the facilities are measuring or have a plan to measure their scope 3 emissions. Most are measuring their what's occurring in their facilities and making improvements. And so we've actually invested in education programs for companies to be able to utilize that we've subsidized, so that they can learn how to measure emissions, how to reduce emissions, how to set targets, and making sure that we are staying on a positive course when it comes to our environmental impact. Because we know that the industry is doing so many great things, but we've got to be able to show those and have those proof points of what the industry is doing.
Yeah. This discussion brings to mind something that and maybe it was part of the initiation of the Protein Pact and the predecessor. But I think of finely textured beef and how we were caught. What an amazing product, honestly. And we want to talk about sustainability and full utilization. I mean, that was a product, and it still is a way of fully capturing and honoring the animal by using every bit that we can to our best ability. And man, what a black eye we got as an industry with finely textured beef. Thankfully, the T-shirts came out, dude, it's beef, and we kind of it was almost like a recalibration time, and hopefully we don't have another one of those extremely large impacts. Thankfully, we have folks like yourself out there trying to demonstrate from a very practical standpoint that what we're doing is the right thing in the meat industry. And there's nobody that's perfect, but there's always room for improvement. But why not try to seek that out on our own instead of being told to, legislated, policy made, that kind of stuff. And so, no, this is really, really cool stuff. You're one of the reasons why I had you on, and timing wise, honestly too, is Dr. Tommy Wheeler. And for those who maybe don't know Dr. Tommy Wheeler, I've had him on here, I think, a couple times maybe now on the podcast. But Dr. Tommy Wheeler, a living legend in our meat science community out in Clay Center, Nebraska. But he mentioned to me that you're going to be speaking at the International Livestock Congress this year in Houston, Texas. And so for those who are curious, the International Livestock Congress will be held March 4th and 5th this year in 2025, in case you're listening to this at a later date. But real quick, can you tell us a little bit about, first off, what is the International Livestock Congress, and then what is the theme that you will be helping to portray this year?
Yeah, the International Livestock Congress is a great event that brings together folks from around the world who are in the livestock industry. In particular, it's really great at engaging students and bringing in student populations to learn more about the industry and what's occurring. And so it's an event we've participated in the past and found a lot of value from. Just kind of great to network and engage with a variety of folks across the industry who we may not reach and connect with on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. This year, the focus is really on supporting continuous improvement in the industry and the ways that we can do that. And so being able to go and share the Protein PACT work that we're doing and what it means and how it advances the industry is my goal. Because I think one of the things that we really have to improve upon as an industry is to be able to work very collaboratively together. Oftentimes we retreat into our silos and sometimes come out with our own individual messages, and our opponents certainly work very well, very collaboratively together. And so the more that we can collaborate and really advance everybody's interests together, even if we don't agree on everything, the stronger we're going to be. And so that's a big part of what we're trying to do, sharing the way we measure it, the way we are more proactive, as well as we have the communicators who we work with to really tell that story and bring that story to audiences who are getting negative messages about meat, aren't hearing from the industry, have misperceptions about the industry, making sure that they hear the facts, they hear the proof, and they hear from the voices who are actively on the ground doing the work. We want to share that as well. And so just the stories of how we go about doing that, the opportunities for the industry to advance that, and really be more collaborative as an industry.
Since 1883, Ultrasource has been a trusted supplier to the food industry. Ultrasource provides superior kill floor, processing, packaging, and labeling equipment and operational supplies.
Yeah. Well, if you're in the Houston, Texas area in March 4th and 5th, it's definitely something to be able to check it out and see Erick in person, as well as a number of other very accomplished speakers to help communicate what it is that we do in agriculture. And that is kind of the theme, is my understanding, is trying to help take all of this great story that we have, as well as the data and information, and getting it out to the public and being able to share the story in a positive light, and being receptive to the areas where we need to make improvements as well, right?
Yep, exactly. Well, and 98% of American households purchase meat and consume meat.
Yeah.
So people want to enjoy meat. They're looking for the permission to do so, and they're being bombarded with all kinds of messages about what they should be eating and what's healthy and what's not. And I think meat has a really great story to tell from a nutrition perspective, from an animal welfare, from a worker safety, from an environmental perspective. And so when people are looking for that information, we have to be able to provide it to them in places where they can find it. And so it's not something that maybe people want to see every day or need to see every day, but when they are hearing certain things or have questions about it, we have to be able to provide that for them in a way that's easily accessible. And so that's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful for the work you're doing. I'm grateful for those who are participating in the Livestock Congress this year. It's incredible to see the enormous change that's happened, in the last 10 and even 20 years of how we are being more proactive, more communicative, more involved in thinking about fixing problems before they exist, hopefully, or just consider what are those challenges that we're going to come into. It's kind of like for all of us in the meat business, pretty much everybody's been exposed to HACCP, and the whole idea behind HACCP is trying to predict what is going to be the problem. Well, now we're taking that to a whole new level and thinking about this from a societal role. And giving, like you said, giving people the permission to be okay with what it is that they're buying and eating and consuming and sharing with their family. And so, I'm always excited to hear about ways that we can communicate better. And I thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun. It certainly keeps us busy, and I think the other thing that we put a lot of energy into is being in uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that is an opportunity for the industry is, we speak to ourselves, we stick in our bubble. We're trying to get outside of that bubble, be in uncomfortable conversations, engage with people who may not fully agree with us, who may have questions, who may be critical of what we do as an industry. And I think showing them that we want to be a part of those conversations, again, showing them the proof points of what we're doing and data to back it up, being more transparent, it earns trust. And when you have those voices who trust you more, it ends up benefiting in terms of what they say to their audiences and what reaches consumers. And so being comfortable with the uncomfortable is an important thing, and something that we've put a lot of energy into over the last few years.
You just mentioned the word transparency, and this is something that the Meat Institute has done 100 times fold. I mean, it's incredible what you guys are doing, and you're grasping hold of those uncomfortable conversations and giving the world an opportunity to truly see what it is. And it's my understanding that the Meat Institute was in charge of the Glass Walls project with Temple Grandin in the past, right? Okay, and so
that is correct. Yeah, we started that, and it's interesting because that was actually right when I was starting out in the industry, and at the time, it was very controversial, very uncertain whether or not we wanted to do a video of a beef processing plant and showing what happens in the plant. And it took the courage of people like Janet Riley, who was the person who led that, and Temple Grandin, to put it out there and be open to showing it. And that was incredibly successful, remains successful to this day. Those videos are more than a decade old, and we have beef and pork, turkey, lamb, and then we have videos that show processes of how we make bacon and hot dogs and hamburgers. Those still get seen quite a bit, even though they're a little dated at this point. And so it's just a really great example of a way that we kind of stepped out of our comfort zone and showed it. And even though people were very nervous about it, it worked out extremely well.
Yeah, we have to be willing to do that. For those who are less familiar, I'm sure everybody's heard of Temple Grandin, Dr. Temple Grandin, but she had had this vision of we need to have glass walls on all of our packing houses. We need to be able to look in and see what's going on. That way people's imaginations don't run wild. And so as soon as folks see this, and I show the videos regularly, in fact, just yesterday in my class, we were watching the beef and lamb videos, and it's incredible. Just how many folks who watch it that have zero understanding of it and maybe are reluctant to watch it go through the process and say, oh, it's very systematic. It's very controlled. It's nothing like a wild imagination would come up with. And so, yeah, again, just being transparent and showing the world what it is that we have and what we do, it really calms a lot of nerves. And yeah, I mean, what a great success story, and I love that the Protein PACT is all part of the greater package now, and so just a ton of great things happening over at the Institute. So
yeah, no shortage of things to keep us busy, and you know, we're here fighting on behalf of the industry, making sure that the industry is well represented where it needs to be, and really advocating on behalf of our members in the industry as a whole. You know, we want to really work with everybody.
Erick, before we wrap things up, I do want to, I like to ask our first time guests, how did you get involved in the meat business? How did you get to the Institute?
That's a great question. So I have no background in agriculture at all. Unique somewhat in that regard. I was a broadcast journalist coming out of college, and I worked in markets like Idaho Falls, Idaho, and other places around the country, just kind of doing news, anything that was the news of the day, you know, city council hearings, you know, crimes, elections, you know, whatever was out there, I covered. And but I do have a health background. I have a master's in biomedical sciences, and so when I was looking to transition away from doing broadcast journalism, I was looking for something kind of with a health focus, and I got into the food industry through that, doing communications, and eventually a job at the Meat Institute came open. It's been 13 years now. And so I started that, and I started in a communications role within the Meat Institute, and that evolved to taking on the sustainability leadership within the organization, and now I'm Chief Strategy Officer. And so I've gotten quite the education in the meat industry just through experience, and now leading issues that I never imagined that I would lead. And so it's been a fun ride, and certainly a challenging one.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, that's awesome. A great story. I love it when folks come into the agricultural world that don't have that background. You know, I was just visiting with a student, in fact, and I get this all the time. They come in sheepishly saying, you know, I just don't have that. I don't come from agriculture, but I want to be involved. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, welcome, thank you, and hopefully everyone else out there embraces these folks, and folks like yourself who found the interest, combine some very different disciplines to work to your advantage and absolutely to our advantage in the meat business. And so what a cool way that you came around, different way of thinking, different background. I love it, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, one last time for folks who are interested in the International Livestock Congress, check that out. It's in Houston, Texas this year, March 4th and 5th. 2025. If you want more information also on the Protein PACT and the Meat Institute, there's the proteinpact.org. The Meat Institute, what's the website for Meat Institute?
Meatinstitute.org.
Meatinstitute.org, just pretty easy. Tons of great information out there. Guys, check it out. I know I go there occasionally and get lost down a lot of rabbit holes because there's so much amazing things that are important to us that definitely I probably didn't know at the time. And so great information. Thanks for the work that the Institute's doing. Thank you, Erick, for joining us.
Thank you.
Awesome.